I'm Jim Check. It's 9:01. We're 1 minute late. It's Friday, February 6th. And I can't believe it, eh? The chaos that goes on in behind the scenes is absolutely incredible. And then hopefully we come on and it looks like it's all put together. With me, Ian Burns, managing editor all the way out there in the nation's capital. Another kind of a socked in day here. We'll see the sun probably in March here in the Okanagan.
Snowing here.
What's that? Snowing there.
Snowing.
Nice. We got some good headlines. Canadians giving up in the economy while Liberals continue to tout it. Harper says our government is to blame. Mexico playing it cool, coming out on top. Carney clings to climate agenda as it crumbles all around him. Green steel is a pipe dream. And why is Brookfield and Carney connection not being asked by media? That's a good question. Parliament has become a high school cheer class. Elizabeth May goes all in on Blame Alberta. Is that a South Park? Should that be a South Park show? Blame Alberta. CBC is the mouthpiece for the Albertas, and we got the receipts. Would you drive a Chinese EV? That question asked in committee. Champagne touts Liberal record in face of negative economic data. He goes actually into a shouting spree. A new Crown Corporation spawn. So they got something done. Tick, new Crown Corporation, just like we needed that. Hit the delete button to avoid accountability. That's the new regulation that's put forth there. Where will Canada get the money for all the Carney pledges? That's a good question. Where do we send staff, or who do we send to staff the new consulate in Greenland? Can we actually, as Canadians, pick who we send off to Greenland to staff that consulate? Because I'm sure there's a few people, if you could put in the comments who you'd like to send off one of the cabinet ministers, it could be a Conservative, it could be NDP, it could be the Elizabeth May herself. Who should we send off to Greenland to staff that consulate there? Gary says he's no expert. There's a day of reckoning by himself. Public servants furious about having to work. AI boss sends money to the US. Message of fear in all communication, even hockey. Drugs for everyone, no age barriers. We're not even making this stuff up. Flip-flop Ford wants you to look past his failures. AI changing the world. Starmer's goose is cooked. All that and a lot more on The Really Big Show. Thank you for coming in. Yesterday was a big day on The Really Big Show. We had tons of people in, like it was one of our record days for people actually live. So Fridays, let's see if we can beat it on Friday. Friday is typically a little leaner for sure, but you never know. We got some feedback to share. This one here. Somebody said they're very disappointed in our selection of articles now that we're highlighting things like crime. And says that they're, you can read it yourself. But because of this, they're going to...
Politically biased opinions being featured. We've been getting that argument since I can remember. And that just happens to be because most of the MPs and MLAs in the Kelowna area are Conservative. What the hell do you want us to do about that? And then the one Liberal, the big Liberal guy, Stephen Fewer, I asked, God, months ago when he won the election, I said, will you be sending a column over, my lord? Not heard a response since. So what are we supposed to do? Like, seriously.
We're supposed to be good boys and not report the news as well. Anyway, we're going to show you the good stuff and the bad stuff because we don't care. Like Elon Musk said, you're going to bribe me? You're going to want us to just tell good stories about the Liberals? Well, show us a good story. We'll tell a good story. Show us a good story. We'll tell a good story. We have shared some of the good stories. Somebody saying the channel is the truth. Great job. Some people can't take the truth. Maybe they should wean themselves off of CBC and CTV, or they might need some help. I saw a good thing on TikTok, actually, where the lady said, if you're still voting Liberal after everything that's going on, you may qualify for a mental health credit. Very interesting, blah, 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 blah. And somebody said, my glasses are spectacular, and we're both very handsome. I had to put that one up because the glasses take a lot of heat. But let's get to the first story for sure. Let's get to the first story here. And that is the economy, really, again. Canada's unemployment rate falls to 6.5 while we shed more jobs. And that's interesting, and that's because more and more people are just disenfranchised and just stop looking for work. Jobless rate now lowest in September 2024 as fewer people look for work The proportion of the population aged 15 and up who are unemployed or looking for work decreased 0.4 percentage points to 6.5. So that's one way to get the number looking better, is just discourage so many people don't even look for work.
Down 94,000. So in the space of a month, 94,000 people decided that they weren't even going to bother anymore.
Canada lost 25,000 jobs in January. There was some good news in there. There was more full-time jobs, but this is not an economy going the right way. I mean, no matter how you slice it, again, just look at the chart, man. Just look at the chart. Look at the chart.
Top of that list as well for job losses, and when you break it down by sector, is manufacturing. One would expect
the
that
good
that's
jobs.
to do with
the good job.
Auto industry, but it's also, it's not quite accurate what Marconi said, or he said it's the core pillar of the Canadian economy. That is false, but it is probably the next one, second or third pillar. So it's very bad news to see that.
Yeah, it's somebody sent us some sausage rolls, and I enjoyed one of them this morning for my breakfast. I had one of the sausage rolls that was from Laura Kay and all the way from Dawson Creek. So we're gonna get that website up there and everything. Hopefully this weekend it'll be up so people can go there and maybe even buy some sausage roll merchandise. But that's not good, you know, like that chart. And we're going to hear the Liberals tout it later, but I don't know how you tout that. I don't know how you look at that and say this is great. Stephen Harper, though, you know, they were touting that he was saying we need to work together. Let's listen to what he has to say.
But we must do so, also clearly understanding that by all the critical measures of international relations, America will still remain our principal partner in the world. Our national conversation must be mature enough to acknowledge that many of the difficulties we now face as a country cannot be blamed on Donald Trump. In too many cases, they stem from bad decisions by our own government.
He's right.
That's good. That's good. Did you hear that right at the end there? The hot mic where the CTV person said, he's right. They forgot to turn their mic off. He's right.
I haven't actually seen that, but is that not just one of the talking heads? Maybe one that used to be a conservative or something like that. In which case, it's not really a hot mic, is it?
But he's right. He's been watching the show. He's been watching the show.
Is he also right about saying we should go very hard in counter tariffs against the US? Because that's what he also said.
Yeah. Well, he's wrong about that.
That a lot of people would disagree with. I can certainly see his point in saying that, but I mean, that's a very risky game. And that's also the kind of game that you can play when you're a mega multimillionaire who's close to death and retired and glorious and happy and sitting in your splendor as you eat grapes like a Roman emperor. It's a bit less easy to swallow that when you're in your 20s or 30s or 40s and have kids to feed and so on. But yeah, I mean, it was an interesting speech. He's an interesting guy, Stephen Harper. A lot of people, I mean, I don't often agree with CBC, the CBC talking heads, but they were saying his presence in the national conversation over the last couple of days is in many ways actually bad for Pierre Poilievre, because Stephen Harper is better than Pierre Poilievre, and I think it's obvious to everybody. And it's kind of a little bit awkward and uncomfortable to see that his predecessor is better than him.
Especially when he's not championing Pierre. I think that's even a bigger issue, really. He's not like he's actually, you know, we've met him personally, both you and I. We both met Stephen Harper and Jean Chrétien when we put on Level Up out here and paid them both to come here and hawk their books and speak on leadership, which was great. It was one of the best conference, probably the best leadership conference ever held in Kelowna. Big deal, actually. We had 8 speakers, and they were 2 of the headliners for sure. And we got to spend some time with them. Both great guys, both great books too. I recommend people reading both those books.
Harper, a lot more aloof than Chrétien, in my opinion. Yeah. Chrétien is like, he was great to talk to, like very personable. But yeah, Harper was a bit busier, wasn't he? Somebody says here they prefer Pierre's policies a lot better than Harper's. I think that, I mean, my read on Canadian politics is that's a majority view. Not just that people prefer Pierre's policies to Harper's, but they prefer Pierre's policies to Carney's. That's why Carney takes them.
Carney prefers them. Carney prefers them to
stamp on it.
Trudeau's.
So that's
Actually,
kind of Carney's trick. He's stolen Pierre's policies. That's what I mean about Pierre. It's almost like he should go back to wearing the glasses, being a nerd, and writing policy, and then give it to somebody that the public likes more. Because it's kind of that is Carney's trick, isn't it? He takes Pierre's policies and he puts the Carney stamp on it, and the people lap it up.
he does write most of the policies that are being adopted, but they're watered down or changed and stuff like that, that they are not fully Pierre's policies, but they are, like, they take a piece of it. Here's the food professor saying Mexico will save CUSMA for Canada, and they've played it cool, and it's working out to their benefit. Let's listen in on the food professor here.
Gulf of America, build the wall, and basically ask Mexicans to pay for it. I mean, they just went over that and moved on and became the #1 trading partner to the U.S. I actually do think that Mexico will save CUSMA, because I don't know about you, but I've been listening to Scott Besson a little bit more, and he did say that, but he did say, I think we're going to have a deal eventually, but it's going to be painful for Canada. And so I am expecting some turbulence, but we'll get somewhere with CUSMA. But overall, I think the group is optimistic, pleased with what's going on with China, but also a little concerned about the future of CUSMA.
Now let's just stick with that for a little bit.
That's good. Mexico has been playing it cool, and it is now America's #1 trading partner as well. But then that's been happening for a while, though.
Yeah, because it's got healthier demographics. Because the Mexicans, even to this day, they still have children. But in the recent decades, they've had quite a lot of children. So they have a lot of people. Whereas Canada has been, like net losing people without immigration for quite a long time, because Canadians decided that they didn't want to have children anymore, like much of the rest of the Western world. So as a consequence of that, Mexico is so valuable to the Americans. If they want to continue to have cheap goods manufactured by someone other than themselves, which they do, for all what Trump says, they do still want and need that. Mexico's the answer, isn't it? Whereas Canada, Canada's kind of not in that bracket at all.
Here's Melanie Jolie. She's already won't play yet. She's already competing for Fool of the Day. I don't know, she's going to have some competition. Now look at that, how quick that is. That's the one thing we've got figured out, Fool of the Day, because so many people
show up.
He does. We have that new board that we bought. And we got that on sausage rolls too. Throw up a sausage roll. See if we can do how fast we can get a sausage roll up. Look at that. Boom. Fool of the Day. Do Fool of the Day.
Danny here. I'm going to have to respond to him again. He's the guy that also said that about Pierre, and that he likes Pierre's policies better than Harper's. Now he says, I don't understand why people don't like Pierre Poilievre. The man deserves his chance. I mean, you can rant against that. You can shout at the sky about that, but it's just the way it is, isn't it? I mean, do you know what I mean? It's like, well, on a personal level, I quite like Pierre Poilievre. I think he's like extremely fast, quick-witted, and has a very interesting perspective on history and all sorts. He's comes across as like a very intelligent man, and almost like an intellectual. He strikes me as an intellectual, which is really rare in politics, I think. But for all that, the Canadian people don't seem to like him. I don't think that's just a conspiracy of polls. I think that's true. I mean, I honestly, there's a couple of people in my own life who are kind of neutral, maybe a little bit positive towards him, but almost everybody else just despises the man. It's like a visceral hatred. They really dislike Pierre Poilievre, and I just don't know what can you do. You can lead a horse to water and all that.
But I think that to be fair to Pierre Poilievre, the media has painted him that way, and that's affected him a lot. I mean, there's steady TDS stuff. They call him Trump. They do this. They pick at him steady, and it is, they've launched a campaign on him, and they've continued to call him, like all kinds of MAGA, everything, even though he has not exhibited any of those things. They have painted him, and in Canada, the national media is left-leaning, is owned by the Liberal government because of its crippled and corrupted Online News Act and the money they hand out and all that stuff. So Pierre Poilievre doesn't get a fair shake with especially the older people. I think he resonates more with younger people that don't watch that stuff. They're not watching CBC and CTV and Global. Some people don't even know what CBC is anymore. And but in the older demographic, definitely they're fed and not like TDS. It's like TDS smeared all over top of Pierre Poilievre, and they throw that initial around a lot too, PP, and it's some of the
I think you can't underestimate what you've said there. You can't underestimate the extent to which he's reacted to that, and his team have reacted to that, and maybe misjudged it. And I think a lot of what they've done to try and change how he looks and how he speaks and how he acts and so on, I think, for me at least, it's made him weaker as a leader. Even, I mean, I've said it a number of times, and it sounds trivial. A lot of people probably think this is stupid, but even like the glasses and like getting sort of hench, you know, it's like, it's just, I'm not so sure about it. I think he was so much better as like the humble nerd who was talking about his house in Calgary and those videos and talking about Magna Carta and stuff like that. I just thought that was him at his strongest.
I've met him a couple times. I think I can't remember 4 or 5 times. I interviewed him a couple times, and I do agree that the earlier version of him was a lot more authentic. And I think they've tried to gloss him a bit. Who's ever guiding him, I think they need to not do so much of that glossing, because just let the real apple eating. Even Jonathan Kay said that the Pierre I want is the guy that's eating the apple, the authentic, real Pierre Poilievre, and that's what he needs to do.
The media did a job on him for that, didn't they?
They beat him up pretty good.
That's what you're saying. The media did a job on him there, and then I think he or his people overreacted, and then they cleansed all that out. They've like taken all of the joy out of the man, haven't they? And he's just, I don't think it's been well handled.
Okay, Melanie Jolie. Like, I mean, how they keep putting her on TV, but hey, this is her reacting to Giovanni's meeting with GM. Now Giovanni's gone to meet with GM in Washington. Listen to her. Like, it just blows me away.
If I could ask you about Jamil Giovanni, the Conservative MP who headed to the United States. He said that he was going to meet, and I don't have confirmation, this is just through his social media channels, that he was going to meet with GM. And I just wondered if he had asked for a briefing or if you had offered one.
No, I think it's because I actually called him on it, saying that as MP in charge of Oshawa constituents that are working at GM, that are losing their job, why is he just embracing the Trump administration that is putting tariffs on them and having them, you know, lose their job? And why is he basically not denouncing the U.S. auto tariffs? And that's just a question that across Oshawa people are asking.
He says he can be of help to the government. But
that's good, yeah.
I don't know, Melanie, just off the top of my head, why aren't you denouncing the Chinese for threatening and menacing Taiwan? Why do you not mention even a little word about that? Why don't you mention the slaves that the Chinese Communist Party has captured and put to work all over the country? Why don't you mention Tibet? Why didn't you mention Xinjiang? Why didn't you mention the persecution of Muslims? Is there anything you would mention? It's just completely principle-free. Not a single principle contained within that woman.
She also, it's all about virtue signaling. Instead of trying to get a deal, I think they're doing more work trying not to get a deal, to rile up the hate, because they know that is their trump card right now. The more they can rile up the base on anti-Trump stuff is how they get people to fear the Americans and how they can get elected. That's it. It's all about power for the Liberals. It's absolutely all about power, because she adds nothing substantial there. You would think that if she cared about the jobs, if you're an auto worker right now, would you rather have somebody working to secure an auto deal, or would you rather have somebody stand at the podium and stick more sticks in the people that have your life in their hands? Jim Farley, Mary Barra, J.D. Vance, Donald Trump. Which is the better way to do it? Which is the better way? Melanie Jolie's way, standing there, putting sticks in their eyes? Because when we're going to listen to a few more clips from her, it's clear they don't want an American auto sector in Canada with what they say later on. They're going to build their EV paradise with Chinese EVs. I mean, that part is pretty much sure. She doesn't like that Jamil's going there, because he might actually get a deal, and it's going to embarrass them. Not that you can be any more embarrassed than she is already.
It's all hanging fruit, isn't it? It's this same conundrum, this dilemma that they're faced with, the Liberals. It's a moral dilemma, which is in the interest of the Canadian people, they should do a deal with the United States ASAP, get that fixed, do the best thing that they can do. But in the interest of the Liberal Party, they should drag this on as long as possible and try and provoke Trump and insult Trump and talk about the Tories being in bed with Trump and all the rest of it, because that's going to increase their popularity, and they obviously don't have a majority and they want one. So they've been presented with this moral dilemma, and as usual, they've chosen the bad option, or they've chosen the option that harms the Canadian people but benefits themselves.
Thank you, John, for that contribution to independent media. We appreciate that a lot. John, a regular contributor, we appreciate that a lot. And I mean, it's become pretty obvious, and then somebody pointed out here, I think it was Danielle pointed out, that the media has been bought. We say it over and over again. The media has been crippled and corrupted. Online News Act and the CBC. I mean, even a government report came out and said that the CBC is basically an arm of the government. I mean, they're saying it themselves, and it's pretty obvious. Like, it's painfully obvious. There's an anti-conservative movement, and even that first, what people wrote into us, they don't want the truth out there. They don't want the truth out there. We should, as a media outlet, media outlet out here, is we shouldn't report on all these bad things. The truth makes it look bad. Here's Mark Carney defending his climate agenda that the reporters went all in on. Like the national reporters went all in on this climate agenda, and now they're puzzled as to what they're supposed to do because it's all been, disrupted for them.
Good morning, Prime Minister Nisha Patel, CBC News. Along with cutting the EV mandate, you've cut the consumer carbon tax, weakened a commitment to the oil and gas emissions cap. You're exempting Alberta from clean energy regulations and abandoned a promise to plant 2 billion trees. Do you still consider yourself a leader on climate change?
Absolutely. I consider Canada a leader on climate change and on focusing on climate change results and solutions. So let me enumerate what we're doing, and there is more to come. Minister de Bruzen is here and working closely with the Minister, and her responsibilities is environment and climate change. Minister of Industry, myself, a host of industries are developing our climate change strategy, which will come out shortly. But let's be clear what we're doing. And I'm going to start with what we're talking about today. First is establishing, through a huge range of direct supports and tax incentives for the entire clean vehicle production chain, value chain, from critical mineral development, processing, battery infrastructure, through to tax incentives for clean manufacturing and the manufacturing of low emission and EV vehicles. So all of that in place, the most competitive investment regime by a mile for the auto sector, and particularly for clean. So that's one. Number two, incentives for consumers to adopt EVs being put back in place. Number three, and a focus on the results in terms of the transition path of the industry. So we want emissions down. We're tightening by twofold our GHG emissions standards, and we're giving the industry the flexibility how they achieve that, whether through plug-in hybrids, EVs, more efficient ICE vehicles, there are multiple paths on this part as we ramp up our clean energy side. In addition, and I'm not going to make this too much longer, in addition, I alluded to this, I said it, and you will see it shortly, we are putting in place an electricity strategy, a good conversation with the provinces around this, to double the scale of our grid in this country, which is a clean grid. Finally, with respect to Alberta and conventional energy exports, the LNG exports from that are coming actual and prospective out of Vancouver are top quartile or top decile, lowest emission LNG. The oil, if we have an oil pipeline, which we're working towards achieving to the West Coast, it will be twinned with the Pathways Project, the largest carbon capture and storage project in the world, not just making sure that that's low emission oil and gas in the production and transportation of that oil and gas, but that we're creating an entirely new industry. So the point is, we are focused, we are dead focused on results, getting emissions down, making the major investments that we need to get emissions down, and in the process, creating more jobs for Canadians and a better future for our economy.
That's good. That's good. John said that that would be better just to reduce the HST on the new car purchases and incentivize this green EV agenda. I mean, is that an answer? Was that an answer? I mean, you go around the bush there like 12 times, and it all comes down to pathways in Brookfield. Isn't that amazing how we ended up back at Brookfield and pathways?
But also infinity bureaucracy as well. That's why John Gotti there of the Gambino crime family, that's why what he said would never happen, because that doesn't require a million bureaucrats to administer. Whereas this just stupidly overcomplicated plan, or series of plans, requires lots of patronage, doesn't it? It requires lots of overpaid people doing not a lot of work, but being very loyal to the Liberal Party.
And also, we showed you the chart, I think it was 2 days ago, the electricity production in Canada going down. And now we're going to double it? How? With what?
Also, did you hear that he said, by a mile? I tell you what, if that's the second time he said mile, because he also did in the other thing, didn't he? He doesn't like his kilometers. But if he reversed the decision made by, I think it was Trudeau Senior, wasn't it? To use kilometers instead of miles in Canada. If he reversed that decision, I'd join the Liberal Party. I would come and I would carry his suitcase for him if he did that, because miles are better than kilometers. Prove me wrong.
This standard that they put into place, you got to remember that it was a 2019 recommendation by the Advisory Council on Climate Change. And that was their report back then. And the Liberal MPs last June voted 194 to 140 against the Conservatives who wanted to repeal the mandate. And we've been preaching about it for over a year now since we started this show. Repeal the EV mandate or lose the auto sector. I mean, it looks like they're doing all they can to lose the auto sector. That's what it looks like. They're doing all they can to lose the auto sector. Is that what they're trying to do? Like, it seems like it is, to get the Chinese auto sector in here. Is this what this was all along, to kill the auto sector here in Canada? But some of the subsidies that were put into place here, that subsidy include $490 million to Nexstar, followed by GM at $368 million, Stellantis at $228 million, Rio Tinto at $110 million, Toyota at $110 million, Linmar at $100 million, Honda at $88 million, Unicorns at $57 million, and on and on and on. Like, I mean, I could keep reading this list of subsidies that were handed out. And it just seems to be subsidy after subsidy after subsidy. And look at the write-offs, the writings on the wall. So it seems odd. Ford took a massive write-down on their EVs, and they're not even going to make the Lightning anymore. GM did the same thing, massive write-down. And here today, Stellantis came out, and they're going to take a massive write-down. They're going to take a $26 billion hit to their on a restructuring thing. Some of that related to writing off their EVs as well. I think there's about a 14.7 billion euros or 17 billion on realigning plans with consumer preferences and new emission regulations, lifting regulations in the United States. 2.5 billion in resizing the company's EV supply chain. So they're all writing this stuff off because it's not going forward. And it is Canada that's going to lead this EV charge. Are they intentionally destroying the auto sector in Canada to replace it with the Chinese auto sector? Because if you just look at the pieces and just look at the actions and not the language, it sure seems odd, right? It seems like they're intentionally sticking sticks in the eyes of the American manufacturing sector or the legacy automakers. Seems odd.
Well, not from a political perspective.
Here's one from the Financial Post. Green steel is about as realistic as green cheese. You know, that's the other one that we showed you that story yesterday. Glencore kiboshing that $1 billion investment because he said the regulations and everything it just doesn't work. Steel from blast furnace is like, it's really how we got out of the Stone Age, really. Steel. You know what I mean?
We've talked about this at length, haven't we? It's not just steel. There are other things that just simply cannot be replaced. That things where fossil fuels cannot be replaced. One is a lot of agricultural jobs, like combines and things like that, and tractors. They just have to have diesel. It's not practical to have anything but diesel. Another one is aircraft. I mean, you see these like gimmicks now and then where they fly around in some glider that's powered by electricity or something like that, but that's not realistic. It's, the jet turbines pretty much the only way to do it, the only sensible way to do it. We are going to need fossil fuels for all that stuff. And then there's things like, Dan Alpas was talking about this, not in his latest column, which you should all read. But he was talking about feedstock for fertilizer. That's natural gas. That's the feedstock, as well as what powers it as well. So that you can actually produce fertilizer to feed people. We've said this. How many times have we said this? It's nice to see somebody else saying it, but who actually understands this? That was what I said last time we talked about this. Was like the people who lead us. How many of them actually understand this about blast furnaces and that it's just not practical to use the electric arc furnaces? It's just not. You can't use it on a massive scale. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah,
but they don't seem to get it. They just think that they can like click their fingers and some like Elon Musk figure will just go and be like, oh, okay, I'll fix it then. But it's like, no, we're not there. It's just not possible.
Replacing today's blast furnaces with pure green hydrogen would demand about 8,000 terawatts of electricity every year. And that's roughly equal to China's entire 2024 consumption. That's just for blast furnaces. We don't have it. We don't have it in Canada. We don't have it, and we have no way to get it. Not with the way the regulations are, like even Glencore. I mean, that should have been the story all over CBC. That should be the story all over CBC. That should be, like, that's massive. That is a massive loss there. And in one of the industries that should be just firing on all cylinders, copper. But I'm just going to look on CBC right now. He fled BC. I don't know who this is. Chatbots, Canada unemployment rate ticks down. See, that's how they frame everything differently. Look at that headline. Canada's unemployment rate ticks down.
Look at the top story as well, on the Popular Now, #1. Read that headline.
It's just crazy. Like it's just like yesterday, and we're going to show you a headline here in a second here, but this is not realistic. This stuff is not realistic, what they say. And the CBC carries the water, steady. Here's Evan Solomon, like how he got, failed CBC reporter who was fired by the CBC for art dealings with Mark Carney when he was the Bank of England governor. Art dealer. Him and Hunter Biden have something in common, art dealers. Let's listen to what he has to say.
Mr. Speaker, the contrast couldn't be more clear. We like to build, they like to block. We're building our auto sector with the new auto strategy. They're blocking. We're building affordable housing. They are blocking. We are investing in defense. They are blocking. We're making life more affordable for families with the GST tax credit. They are blocking. We like to build. They like to block. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Can you imagine if that happened in the House of Representatives in the United States or anywhere, something clownish as that? All the media would just be beating him with a stick. That was like a high school performance at best.
High school? As the father of toddlers, I can tell you that was toddler level. That's like Blippi or Miss Rachel. That was directed at 3-year-olds, I think.
I want to remind people of what his role is with Canada. He is the head of AI, the most important industry in Canada, and that's him right there. We just watched Melanie Jolie. We watched Melanie Jolie show her intellectual aptitude, and then we just watched this failed CBC journalist here who's not much more than a touter. He said that Canada is going to lead in AI. They just say things just right into the wind, and it's just like they'll just deny the truth. Where is Canada leading in AI? They just say things against the truth, and it's just absolutely painful. And this is like, I mean, I don't even like fool of the day. Should we put him in contention? But I don't even think he qualifies as.
Definitely. to be completely honest, we're always honest and we're always fair. I thought Melanie Jolie was nowhere near as foolish as usual. If that was her performance every time, she would never win Fool of the Day. So Jolie's always the default, really, isn't she? But I don't think today she is. So for me, for my money, he's ahead big time.
Like, he named all those sectors, and the auto sector is losing jobs like crazy, and it seems like they're intentionally killing. The housing sector, they built 9 homes. Remember the story we did? If you watch on a regular basis, they built 9 homes in the year so far in this new Build Canada Homes. 9 homes. 9, like in Germany. 9.
Might as well be 9 rather than 9. It's basically the same thing, isn't it?
And what have they done for the military? Still hand-wringing over the F-35. You know they're going to buy the F-35. But they got the crowd riled up on it. And here it is. They said that the inflation has to do with the G7. Francois Philippe Champagne the other day was saying that the food inflation has nothing to do with the Liberal Party. Listen to this. There's the food professor again saying the Bank of Canada acknowledges Ottawa's counter tariffs was a key driver in food inflation for 2025. Apparently, the Bank of Canada must be wrong.
We talked about that, Sylvain. But I guess of the big boys, only Bloomberg. Yeah, that sounds fair enough.
Not on the CBC website either, is it? Nope.
I mean, we're almost doing that out of habit, aren't we? But when you sort of think about it, when you give it some, brain power, it is truly appalling the things that you don't see on CBC. It really is like an alternate reality, isn't it? Where everything's pretty great, except for Trump.
Well, even how they frame things, like, they frame they try to find a sliver. They might even say, I mean, the next headline to come up, like, could be just like, Liberals take credit for the sun coming up this morning. Thank you for the sunshine.
Aztec Empire style.
The sun brought to you by the Liberal government and the CBC. You can thank us later and send in some taxation dollars because we're providing that sun to you. Here's the new South Park episode, and she's definitely in contention for Fool of the Day because she's always in contention. I don't know, maybe that might be mean, but Elizabeth May, let's listen to what she has to say.
I'll be kind and say it was a stretch for the Prime Minister to claim that Canada is a climate leader. We remain the worst performer on climate targets and greenhouse gas goals of any country in the G7. Let me just repeat this. Even the United States, after one term of Trump, and we're now in the middle of another one, has not done as badly as Canada. And that's because we have, for every time we've had a substantial reduction in greenhouse gases, such as when Ontario shut down its coal-fired power plants, those cuts were overwhelmed by growth in emissions from Alberta. We need to have a Canadian climate plan. We need to bring down our emissions, and it's not a political commitment. It's absolutely mandated by global science that says very clearly, and we experience it daily, globally, that we are in a climate crisis fueled by fossil fuels. We are in the midst of seeing large systems begin to unravel. So we're seeing changes in ocean current circulation. We're seeing changes in things like the polar vortex. We used to keep the cold Arctic air through fast-moving polar winds in the Arctic. The polar vortex collapsing has huge impacts globally. We're seeing increased and prolonged drought, increased floods, and heat levels of heat domes.
That's good. That's good.
Still banging that drum.
You know what? Just before we get past this, have you watched that movie Office Space? Remember Jennifer Aniston when she worked in the restaurant there? I can't remember the name of the restaurant, but she had to wear flair. Like the restaurant, the manager got mad at her because she didn't wear enough flair. Look at all the flair that Elizabeth May wears on an ongoing basis. She's almost like, you know, she would probably be like the head restaurateur there, or the head waitress or head hostess or whatever. But she's got lots of flair going. She's got the green scarf. She's got the Ukrainian flag. She's got some global citizen pin going on there. I don't know. She's got her flair on.
And what she's saying is not true, needless to say. I mean, I don't know if we're even going to engage her as though she's an honest party, an honest interlocutor, but it's not true. Do you think she's likely to have her videos taken down from social media or some sort of misinformation badge put on her videos? Somehow I think not. But what she's saying is false. And it's also utterly absurd to link the CO2 emissions that come from Canada to any kind of greenhouse gas effect or climate change. Because Canada, as we've said a million times, is far too small to have any effect, one way or the other. Doesn't really matter what we do here. In fact, it's completely irrelevant. But she's standing there as if it's life or death, as if Alberta pumping oil is death and Alberta not pumping oil is life. That is completely false. That's completely untrue.
I think we need another chart there instead of Fool of the Day and Sausage Roll. For her, we need one that's fact-checked misinformation. Fact-checked misinformation. Put that in the queue there, Desert Fox, because that one goes down as fact-checked misinformation from Elizabeth May. And here you go, CBC carrying the water. And Mark Carney, all he has to do is just retweet it. He just has to push the button, because thank you very much to the CBC. Goodbye, EV sales mandate. What a headline from the CBC. Canada's outlet of record that takes $1.5 billion of your tax dollars to report hard-hitting news. Goodbye, EV sales mandate. Hello, purchase rebates. Carney shakes up Canada's auto industry. How about the headline says, Liberal policy, another Liberal policy failed that they had to rescind. That's the headline.
Why did it take this long? Or after years of being told it was stupid, Liberals drop EV sales mandate. How about just anything even remotely neutral? Just a little bit of objectivity. Instead, it is literally, goodbye, bad thing. Hello, good thing. Carney, the king, shakes up Canada's auto industry. Like, it gives him agency. It makes him the man. He's gone in there, like our beloved John Gotti. He's gone in and he's shaking people by the lapels. He's like, fix this thing. I'm Carney. There's $5,000. It's just so utterly absurd. And to think that you all paid for this. We all paid for this.
Yeah.
Not only do we pay for the PMO and also the Liberal Party, because they benefit from taxpayers' money, but we pay for this too. We pay to be propagandized by the Liberal Party, and it is just so tiresome.
Sausage rolls all around for the people at the CBC for sure. Let's put them up there. Let's give them like sausage rolls. Look at that. These are Dawson Creek sausage rolls. They don't deserve these kind of sausage rolls, but unbelievable. That is carrying the water for Mark Carney. He didn't have to do any work. Look, that whole headline there. Goodbye EV sales mandate. Hello purchase. And right, even the sub one there, up to 5,000 business or lease incentives coming for EVs. Wow.
What was amazing about this, I took this screenshot, but I took it from the desktop, from the actual computer, but I saw this tweet first on my phone. And because I follow the Liberal Party and Mark Carney, their Twitter accounts, it said Mark Carney and all this. So it was Mark Carney with a screenshot of CBC, and then at the top it said, reposted by the Liberal Party. It was like the trifecta of propaganda. It's just, you have to laugh. Because I do find myself sometimes careening, just about to crash into the river in a sort of blind despair and fury. But you've got to save yourself, get back on the road, just laugh about it, I think.
$1.5 billion to be the propaganda machine for Canada. There's the receipt right there. That Rosemary Barton and David Cochrane. Good journalism? You think that's good journalism? Do you? You look at that? Look at that headline? And they put it under politics yet. Should be tagged with sponsored content. Tag it.
The CBC in general should be. It's a shame that on X they dropped that. Remember when they had the little badge that said state-funded media?
No.
It's a shame that they got rid of that. They should call it liberal-funded media.
Yeah. We're gonna miss this next one here. I don't know, because it's a little long. I mean, it talks about how these well, we'll play a little bit of how's that. It talks about how these EV subsidies it's just another tax credit scheme to actually drive Chinese EVs into Canada. Go ahead.
4 main points. First, today's Liberal electric vehicle announcement is yet another blow for the Canadian auto workers. For an auto worker, for example, in Brampton laid off after Stellantis Jeep Compass moved to Illinois recently, learning that up to $2.3 billion of Canadian taxpayer dollars will now subsidize the American auto industry is very cold comfort for those workers and their families. The Canadian auto manufacturing, our auto manufacturing sector, makes more than 1 million vehicles annually, yet very few meet the requirements announced today, less than 5%, in fact, if you include, for example, Windsor Stellantis plant producing the plug-in Pacifica minivan and EV Dodge Charger. Again, less than 5% of Canadian-made vehicles will benefit from this announcement, despite it being 2.3 billion Canadian taxpayer dollars. So as a result, American and other foreign-made EVs and plug-in hybrids will capture the benefits of this new subsidy. Despite the Liberals signing on, and I'll remind you of this, up to $52 billion to subsidize and create an EV supply chain in Canada, the vast majority of these vehicles produced again and sold domestically remain gas-powered in Canada. Today's policy will therefore benefit countries like the United States that manufacture far more EVs than Canadians drive.
That's good enough. That's. You can watch that whole thing if you want. But Chrystia Freeland was the one that was doling out all that cash, that $52 billion. We talked about that, I think, a couple of weeks ago. And she was Canada's, a lot of those are failed battery plants as well, on that $52 billion. And she's the economic advisor now to Ukraine. Wow, I mean, and she has tens of billions of Canadian dollars to help them spend with no oversight.
Well, she's got money that she was when she was finance minister. She went to Ukraine. She was in the government that gave that money to Ukraine. Now she's on the other side of the equation, isn't she?
And if you were a skeptic, man, you could. But if you were in the media that had access, again, they cut off access. They silo themselves off, and they only answer to the CBC, the CTV, and Global, and that's it. You know, and it just won't even answer questions. Like, where's the questions on conflicts of interest? Where are the questions? And
but they aren't.
The
they're also not open to questions, are they? We saw the performance of when they bring in the head of the CBC for question, just completely obstructionist, and won't say a thing. And then the classic is you can't even comment on their videos, and you can't even comment on their output because they just turn comments off. They're just, if they were capable of self-reflection, I think they would see that they're the problem.
One more from Mark Carney. Let's listen to this.
We have everything we need to take the lead in the vehicles of tomorrow. And we're positioning Canadian workers and businesses to seize that opportunity. That's why today we're announcing a series of strategic investments that will shape the future of mobility and advance manufacturing in Canada as part of a coordinated plan to build a stronger, more competitive, more independent country. Our strategy rests on 5 pillars. First, accelerating investment in Canadian auto manufacturing. Second, rationalizing emission reduction policies to focus on the outcomes that matter to Canadians. Third, strengthening domestic demand by making electric vehicles more affordable and reliable for Canadians. Fourth, establishing a comprehensive trade regime that strengthens the competitiveness of our auto sector. And fifth, protecting Canadian auto workers from the immediate pressures while helping them bridge.
Good. That's good. Like even if they, let's just say they get their way here and they chase all the legacy automakers out, and China comes here and they start manufacturing vehicles in their perfect dream, and Canada becomes, because you're going to hear it later, the hotbed of EV builders in the world. China uses mostly robots to build their cars. They're already doing mostly robots. And how long is that time gap for them to build a factory and employ the 500,000 Canadian auto workers? So better listen up as to what's going on.
Who are we going to sell them to? The biggest consumer market in the world, and our main market for everything, is the United States. They're not going to take them. Who's going to buy them? The Europeans? The Europeans want the same thing. If the Europeans are going to buy Chinese cars, they're going to want the same deal, like factories in Europe. I mean, that idea is just absolute nonsense, isn't it?
You know who's
that's
in
not
Europe
go
making
anywhere.
You know who's in Europe making the best-selling car in the world? Oh, right, Tesla.
In Berlin, yeah.
Giga Berlin. Like it's just another giga fantasy. Here's Aaron Gunn pointing out. Aaron Gunn's pointing out the Brookfield connections. CBC, CTV, and Global. Don't see it.
For North Island Powell River.
Good news, Mr. Speaker. Canada's energy regulator has rejected Brookfield's plans to send Canadian hydroelectricity to the United States with almost no benefit to the people who live here, and has instead recommended a full licensing process and review. But the final decision still rests with the Minister of Natural Resources. So will that minister commit to accepting the energy regulator's recommendations and ensuring that Canada's national interests always come first?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Let me reassure the member across the aisle that our government is working closely with the government of British Columbia to build an affordable, reliable, and clean electricity grid that meets the significant surge in demand we are expecting in the years to come. As the member opposite said, this matter is currently before the Commission of the Canadian Energy Regulator, which makes its decisions independent of the federal government in the best interests of Canada's ability to meet its domestic energy needs.
The Honourable Member.
That's good, yeah, that's good. And just to help out, and Lightning Rod's back, just to help out there, they didn't need a whole bunch of bank accounts frozen. They just needed one, really, and then trot it out on the media and make an example of it. They just needed one to put a head on a stick and make a message for Canadians. And they did it. They did that one bakery on the island there, and did every story on it. You can go read the stories and how they shut down her business because she made a $250 donation to scare everybody in Canada. That's what, they only needed one. That's the trick there, Lightning Rod. That is how they push fear. It's always been about fear. Everything is about fear.
He needs to take some leadership classes and needs to learn about how you put the fear of God into a large group of people. You do something called exemplary justice.
Wow.
And that means, yeah, you cut the head off a couple of people, put it on a pike. Bob's your uncle, then you got loads of scared people. You don't have to cut all their heads off.
Put it out in front of the gate. The kings used to do it.
I am a leader, says
Clownish. This is where they just, the arguments are so bloody weak, it's painful. We all ask what's going on electricity. Here's Bob Zimmer here, MP, talking about the electricity bills in the Yukon. Electricity is a horrible way to heat homes, and I can give you horror stories. I know lots of friends that even heat their homes here with electricity. It's very, very expensive. Very, very expensive. Let's listen in on it, though.
The Prime Minister said not that long ago, Canadians will hold us to account by their experience at the grocery store when they are paying their electricity bill, when they or their children are looking for a place to live. That's what the Prime Minister said. I have a bill from Yellowknife from Steve, and for 1 month alone, it's from November 26th to December 29th. The bill, it's going to shock most of us in the room, was $882 for an electrical bill. Is that affordable, Minister?
You have 10 seconds.
No, and then that's why we are introducing measures. So there's the groceries and essentials tax credit. The other thing I would point in that is in the recent announcement, which I'm hoping that will continue, the Conservatives will support, is the $20 million in food infrastructure loan, which includes supports for harvesters. There's a great study that shows $50 invested in hunters is actually able to feed 20 families, versus $50 invested in imported meat is only supporting 3.3. So there's work to do in regards to electricity, and we'll be working with the territorial government on that.
I don't know what that first part of the answer had anything to do with the question, but they used that to kill a lot of the time and then answer the question and said, oh, there's work to do. Yeah, there's a ton
1 month of electricity, $882, and her first idea for a response is, oh, there's a GST, there's a tax credit that we're going to do. What? How do you even know this person would qualify for that? Like, a stupid thing to say.
I just want to say this to lightning round, because we're letting you back in here. You got to behave, though, because you're just being argumentative, and if you're going to be argumentative, you go back into timeout. And I didn't say there's only one frozen. I said they only needed one to make an example of. So if you're going to be argumentative, you're going to just cause a disruption. You're going to go back into timeout. So either be nice or be quiet. Anyway.
But yeah, anyway, this is tragic. I mean, again, as I've said a number of times, I come from the future. I was born and raised in a country where that wouldn't even be too extreme or unusual to have to pay that much in an energy bill for a month's energy. And I just have to say, I've seen it with my own eyes. I've lived it. I've lived in a culture that suffers from this, and it is absolutely repulsive. You don't want to go down this road. And the only answer, not what that ridiculous fool said in response, the only answer is supply. We just need more supply. We need more energy. We need more electricity. Just do everything that you can do to get as much as possible out there. And then the price will drop and everyone will be happier and richer and more comfortable and healthier. Energy is joy. So produce as much of it as you can.
We encourage everybody to comment and do things, but if you're going to try and dominate the conversation by just spewing garbage out there, we're just going to put you on quiet because it's just disruptive and it doesn't really help the conversation. More than willing to have discussions with people, but just, if you're just going to come in here and just try to be disruptive for no purpose at all, none. And just, fake news. Okay, everything we report is not fake news. It's got sources. So there you go. Here's Vascapelis asking Melanie Jolie to explain why they've gone all in on China. Or did we do this last night? I think I got, no. Sorry. This is in committee here on Vincent Ho on would you drive a Chinese EV?
Last question. Would you personally drive a Chinese-made EV? Yes or no?
You wouldn't?
I said, would you?
But my question is, you wouldn't?
I'm the one asking the questions here. You're the one answering.
Well, I'm asking a question to you, too.
I'm asking you.
You're here to answer our question.
The point of the committee is that the committee members ask you questions.
I'm willing to
are you
drive
serious?
a very great...
You're asking me? I'm asking
1% at a
Canadian
time.
People are
Please,
asking you.
MP Ho, your time is up. MP Ho, your time is up.
I'll just finish, Chair. I'm willing to drive a great Canadian-made vehicle, and that will be my focus.
Minister?
So you won't. Last question.
That's good. So for that one,
get the fool of the day out.
Get it up. Throw it up. Boom.
Do it. Sausage Fox. There you go. She wins again. This woman is on a generational run, as the kids say. She is unbeatable in Fool of the Day, isn't she? Just when I think she's not going to win it, and just cast your mind back to Evan Solomon behaving like a toddler, as if he was entertaining toddlers. What will the Tories do? Block it. Right? That was her challenger. And she's just blown him away there with that. I mean, why does anybody else even try? Why does Evan Solomon even try? He put a lot of effort into looking like an idiot there.
And for
Melanie
the win.
Jolie pops along and just says, would you? It's like, shut up, man. Somebody shut this woman up.
Because she in question in committee, they're supposed to answer questions, but she, of course, they've all spent that money. What was it, $270,000 that they've spent on how not to answer questions in committee? CBC took the brunt of that money. It's painful, but she's not done. Fassi asks her about China and why the sudden change.
Now to open a market that I see no evidence unless you do that China is a less disruptive global power. And your government has made decisions now to open a market that you have, talked about how important it is to the Canadian economy, open up a market to Chinese investments in the auto sector, to open up more Chinese investment in oil and gas, for example, another critical asset for Canada. Is that a mistake given your own assessment of China just a few short years ago?
Well, I think things have changed. When you make assessments, it's based also on the context in which you're making them. And the U.S. has decided to change its course when it comes to trade. And Canadian auto workers are the first victims of that. And so, of course, we'll continue to seek a good agreement with the U.S. and with Mexico. We will obviously put a lot of time and efforts in the renewal and revision of the CUSMA agreement. But at the same time, the negotiations that we've had with China have been more predictable and much more stable than the experience we've had with the U.S. And that's a statement I made a month ago, and I stand by my statement because...
That's good enough. She also said that people are coming to her to learn how to deal with the Americans. You remember that statement? You made that statement as well, Melanie Jolie. And then right after that, or during that, you were spending, what was it, $1,000 an hour to get somebody to tell you how to speak to Republicans, and you're actually paying a Democrat to do that. Look, you can't even make this stuff up.
But her comments there was just so dishonest, wasn't it? She's been asked, like, what's changed? China was like this great threat, the greatest threat to Canada. And then 5 minutes later, we're off in Beijing talking about how great Xi Jinping is and doing trade deals with China. And she thinks that, ultimately, at the end of the day, she thinks that you don't deserve an explanation for that. That she can just answer like that and talk about Trump in this sort of vague way. It's not good enough. That's not good enough. You can't treat the public as though they're as stupid as you are. They demand a little bit of consistency, an explanation, some sense. And Mark Carney, who is obviously vastly more intelligent than she is, has kind of hinted at one, hasn't he? Which is kind of basically realpolitik. It's just like, we need money, we need trade partners, like we're going to do business with anyone. And he said, it's not a feminist foreign policy anymore. It's not like an activist foreign policy anymore. We're not going to behave like an NGO in our foreign dealings anymore. We're going to do things that make Canada richer and make us more secure. Okay, that's kind of an explanation. What is this? I just consider it an insult. It's insulting. And somebody asks here that they wonder what would happen if I encountered Melanie Jolie in the street or something like that. I think she'd probably kick my head in, wouldn't she? I think I would. Her and the RCMP protection deal, they'd all just do me in, I reckon.
You would be David Menzies. That's what she was. Yeah, that's David Menzies. Get him.
And it would be my fault as well, wouldn't it? CBC would be like, known fascist starts fight with police. Known misogynist.
Somebody asked me a couple questions on my charging in my car. I drive a Tesla, and I charge it at home. I just walk, and I plug it in about once a week, and I just plug it in and I walk away, so it doesn't take me long. When I do have to charge, like when I go to Calgary, and I stop in Golden, it's usually 10 minutes. They charge quite quickly, Teslas, to 80%, right? So it's a different way. I mean, I've done tons of shows on it. I don't want to bore everybody with it. And what does it cost to charge it at home? Electricity rates, 10, 12 cents a kilowatt, so $10, $12, So it's really cheap. The biggest advantage of a Tesla is completely different than the rest of them. Let's just get that out of the way. And I've driven quite a few of the other ones. Tesla is, if you're going to drive a Tesla, if you're considering an EV, drive a Tesla and then use that as your benchmark and then go look at the other ones. Because it's completely different. I use full self-drive and I don't drive really anymore. The car drives me back and forth to work completely, like turn by turn, stop, everything, avoids raccoons, everything, pulls over for ambulances, everything. And it's just it's a different thing. And I was a bow tie guy, Corvettes, 1-ton diesels, and all that stuff. Yeah, somebody says that I'll be in a prison camp one day with my Tesla. Probably because we're us doing this show here, maybe. Because, but we're gonna fight till the end. I mean, I love the bow ties. And I was a bow tie guy. I drove a lot of Fords in my life, so I know that they you know, like for most people in Canada, and especially I've worked mining and all that stuff. I mean, these aren't going to work there. You know, a pickup truck and an SUV is what most people need in Canada, and that's just the way it is. I mean, I have lesser needs. I'm not, you know, carting around all the stuff I used to cart around when I was raising a family. So it works for me right now in what I have, but you know. But I also have worked in Thompson, Manitoba, High Level, Alberta, Fort St. John, Edmonton, all those places. And I know that I would be picking a different vehicle there. So how's that?
Realistic.
Shouldn't force anybody to pick anything. If you want one, buy one. If you don't want one, you shouldn't subsidize somebody to buy one either. Like, they should have their own merits. People buy an iPhone because they like an iPhone. Some people like Samsung. Some people still like the flip phone. Some people still like Blackberries for some reason. Our producer likes that. She likes her. She has this infatuation for Blackberries. Don't know why, but hey. What's that? And then one more from Melanie. One more from Melanie, and that's it for Melanie here. She's going to tell you the vision. This is the vision I'm talking about. This is her vision for Canada, Chinese EVs.
It's been very interesting what is going on in the industry worldwide, but particularly in Canada. How CEOs are talking to us, and also union leaders talking to us, is how can they profit from the fact that we have so many free trade agreements? Never before did I hear a CEO say, you know what, we'll start exporting to Europe, we'll start exporting to the Middle East. Why not export into Latin America? And the trade relations are being reshaped as U.S. protectionism is just going ahead. And so that's why when you hear the Prime Minister in Davos saying, you know, middle powers will work together, concretely for auto workers, what does that mean? Well, they will be building either in Windsor, in Alliston, in Woodstock, Cambridge, Oshawa, Oakville, cars that maybe years ago were absolutely going to the U.S. And that will continue. But now they will be building for the world. And so they will be sending these cars elsewhere. And so what is then really important is that because we're not only operating in a North American reality, we need to be extremely productive. And we know we can be, because our auto workers win year after year the prizes for the quality of their work. But not only that, we have to be extremely how can I say, we have to be at the forefront of the latest technology.
Right. She hasn't got a clue. Not a clue.
She really hasn't got a clue. I'm telling you.
Not a clue.
She doesn't have the basic. It's economics. At the end of the day, economics isn't even really a subject. Economics is lots of different things mixed in: geography, history, and anthropology and all kinds of things. So let's call it economics. She lacks economic knowledge. She is profoundly ignorant of economics. She's talking about South America or Latin America, or whatever she said, as picking up the slack. We're going to sell cars to Latin America. You just know nothing. You just know absolutely nothing. Latin America is not a market to sell to, really. I mean, you're lucky if you can sell anything to them. That's just not what Latin America is.
Brazil is already making Chinese cars there. Brazil's making Chinese cars there already. Like, and they've destroyed the market there. So there's that.
Yeah, but I mean, even if you could win the market in a big way, it's kind of like you're not going to make all that much money from it. There's a reason that everybody wants access to America is because it's the #1 consumer market on the planet. They really buy stuff. You can really make a lot of money and you can run a business based on selling things to the Americans. That's why everybody wants to sell things to the Americans. And that's like the Scots, for example, just constantly, like, you know, we're talking about the whiskey. Why was Keir Starmer so excited about this whiskey thing? The reason that whiskey is such a big deal, or the reason that like doing deals with America is such a big deal, is because they're the buyers. That's where you make money. You sell your whiskey or whatever it is to America. That's how you make money. You're not going to make all that much money selling it to Ecuador, you know? But if I'm being generous, in the most generous possible interpretation of this, and I've said this a couple of times, it's all part of trying to bluff the Americans and trying to make them think that we actually have a plan here. And
or there is a plan. There is a plan, or they're bluffing on the plan because Christina says she said she wouldn't drive a Chinese EV. No, that's not what she said. She said she would drive a Canadian-made EV. Her plan there is Chinese EVs get made in Canada. That's her plan.
By Chinese robots.
By Chinese robots. Yeah, Melanie, I would advise you to go to one of the factories in China and see how many people are actually working in them. Fool of the day. And 500,000 auto workers. You need to look at what's going on. Like look past the varnish. Don't watch CBC and CTV and Global. Look past it and use your common sense. And look what's actually happening all around you and ask yourself, do you trust these people with your job?
Or with your country, which is an even bigger deal.
Or do you trust the company that's been paying your wages for the last 30, 40 years? Who do you trust? Because they're saying it's a bad idea. And they're the ones that have been paying you. How much does unemployment insurance pay versus the auto sector? It's a good question to ask yourself. Here's in competition, and to be fair, there's competition here today between Evan Solomon, Melanie Joly, and this fine young gentleman here. Let's play it.
They won't, but the people in St. Thomas know who did it. They know what we're doing today, and they know we're going to support our worker, our industry, and the auto sector in this country, Mr. Speaker. Let them continue to criticize.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, he's literally yelling for us to stop yelling. This is an example of the Liberal illusion. The Prime Minister has put in charge of finance the industry minister who's responsible for auto production in Canada falling by half. Wow. And the present collapse of auto production and jobs in our country. Now, the Prime Minister broke his promise to negotiate a deal with the U.S., and now he wants to subsidize U.S.-made vehicles. Why not take taxes off Canadian-made vehicles so that we can bring home jobs to our country?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I don't need to speak loud because Canadians know what we did.
We do know what you did. We absolutely know what you did.
Just there. He brought the volume right down. So he's like, I don't need to speak loud. The Canadian know what we did. But that was like about a quarter of the volume of his like mega Kermit the Frog impression earlier on, where he really was screaming, wasn't he?
Do they go into a room in the morning? Okay, today, Evan, you're going with the what was it again? Block. Like what was, we build, block, you block. We build, you block. We. Oh my God. We're not done though. We got to give Kermit one more shot at this here.
I guess.
Oh, is it the wrong link? He just, well, he gave you a couple seconds, and if you can't find it, I'll just tell you what he said. Basically said they're proud of their record. And I'm just like, have you looked at the record? Have you looked at the numbers and stats? Maybe watch the Really Big Show. I know some of their people watch the show. because I've heard from the MPs that people are watching us now, so that's great. Why don't one of you come on? We're sending out letters to every one of you, inviting you on, so we would love to have you on. So you can get to the front of the line, and you can join us here on the Really Big Show, and you can defend your record. Thanks, Charles, for a couple of sausage rolls there. We appreciate that.
Big Charles.
No luck? Because we can move on. Basically, he's just, any luck? Yeah, maybe? Yeah, let's do it then.
Mr. Speaker, every time a Liberal insider does damage to Canadians, drives up their cost of living, they get a reward. It's not just with Mr. Wiseman, it's the Prime Minister himself. His policies are driving up grocery prices for the year to come. And what did he do as punishment for himself? Gave himself an $800,000 privately chartered flight to Egypt, where there were meetings happening in which he had absolutely no role other than a photo op. Why is it that Canadians need to line up at food banks so that he can go jetting around the world for photo ops?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I know in the spirit of the holiday season, the Leader of the Opposition is not surely not suggesting that the Prime Minister not attend as auspicious an event as
That's
the
good.
ceremony.
That's good. That's the wrong clip, but that's okay. The clip we were
He's
looking
so
for.
arrogant, isn't he, McKinnon? Yeah. It's like it's almost like you couldn't practice hard enough to achieve that level of arrogance. It has to be in your DNA, I think. It's like he is a natural, arrogant wonder.
Oh, he found it. Let's see if it's strike one. Let's see if it's strike two here. Let's see if he can knock it out of the park. Here we go.
We are proud of our record. We are proud to invest in Canadian workers, and we'll build the industry of the future
There you
together.
go. That's it. Kill it right there. Proud of the record. Proud of this record. What do we got? Record lineups at the food bank. What do we got? Record lineups at food banks? Unemployment rate twice that of the Americans, basically. Pretty close to twice that of the Americans. Highest inflation in the G7 for food. How are we doing? We're heading into a recession.
Has to be close to records, I'm sure.
Bloomberg put out a piece yesterday, said that Canadian economy is on life support. We put up chart after chart after chart. Something happened in 2015. We're still working on it. We have the best people working on it. We're trying to figure out what happened in 2015.
Must be something to do with the election of Trump the next year. That must have been it.
I think we did this story with the headline we put, did a comet hit Canada in 2015? Somebody thought we were being serious, and they're just like, no, there's no comet. There's, I couldn't find anything on a comet. It's like, okay. 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 There you go. Here's an MP here no, this is a senator talking about the Canadian economy and what CTV had to say about it.
Government leader, even CTV is now reporting that Canada's economy is on life support and heading into a recession. After a decade of Liberal rule and nearly a year under the new Liberal rule, Canada is facing soaring debt, collapsing productivity, and an exodus of investment approaching $1 trillion. The result is clear. According to StatsCan's latest real GDP figures, Canadians are on track to be poorer than the year before for the third consecutive year. Wow. Senator Moreau, instead of doubling down on failed Liberal record and more Band-Aid solutions, why won't the Prime Minister join Conservatives in legalizing rapid resource development, repeal job-killing laws, and finally restore investment productivity and prosperity for Canadians?
That's good.
Copied our program.
That's good. That's good.
Like the
by
way
the way,
even CTV.
By the way, I did an interview yesterday. You can go watch. I interviewed a CEO and president of a junior resource company. Me and him go way back. I worked in the the resource sector as well, building out a mine as a mine site controller. It's a good one to listen to. Canada should be just like banging the drum right now, or we should be like humming. Like this should be like one of the most prosperous nations in the world. Again, you can go look at the price of copper at record levels, silver, gold, zinc, nickel, like all of it. It should be this should be Canada's day in the sun. Meanwhile, oil and gas, LNG, everything. Everybody they're right in one thing. We have what everyone needs, except we have no political will to pull it out of the ground. It's all trapped.
We've got everything that you need to be rich, except leaders.
Yeah. Weakness of leadership. We've said this for a while now. Weakness of leadership and a lost decade. Again, go look at the charts. Pull them all up. Pull them all up. Call it fake news. Call it whatever you want. Pull up a chart. See how much fake news is in there. Because you can't. And Francois Philippe Champagne and you know, like, listen to the touts. We go back to Evan Solomon. We build, they block. The Conservatives have no power. Stop with the nonsense. Like, you build what? 9 homes, nine homes there in a year, and you said you're going to build 250,000 extra homes a year. 9. And the PBO
but also
says,
like, the cheek of that man to say that. The Conservatives are being like incredibly friendly to the Liberals.
Yeah, they help
because
them.
they don't want an election because they think they'll lose it even worse than the last one. I mean, that's the cynical reason, I think. But on the face of it, if you remove motivation, they're being so hospitable. You know, it's like, you know, here's your bill, my lord. Passed, freshly passed. I mean, have you ever seen an opposition as kind as this? And yet they still stand up and talk about them blocking everything.
Well, it's all performative. All performative. I was going to play this clip. I'll just explain it instead of playing this clip here. And this is this conflict of interest rule that they want these special powers. Why, though? That's the question. Why do they need this? This has never happened before. They want basically like pardons, like you can do anything. Because the question has to deal with, and I said this quite a while ago, even when this first came out. Why do they need it? Brookfield? Do they need it because of all the conflicts of interest that they'd have to report? Because Brookfield is mired into so many things. And again, we've said this before. Does Brookfield need Canada more than Canada needs Mark Carney? You know, Mark Carney and Brookfield kind of superimpose those or whatever, because Brookfield, many of its pillars, when Carney talks about the five pillars, many of the pillars of Brookfield are in trouble. The one in Chinese real estate, huge investments in China. They took a loan from President Xi, the Bank of China. That's a weird place to take a loan, to refinance properties in China. China's real estate not doing well, off 20%. Those are facts. Those are like facts. He just gave back a property in London, commercial real estate, doing really poorly in US, Canada, and the United States. They've handed the keys back on several properties in the US, and they just gave one up in London, a big high-profile property, for the debt, just to cover the debt. They also get tons of contracts from the Canadian government, which would have been in jeopardy if they would have lost the election to the Conservatives. They also have a $6.5 billion tax. They're the biggest tax dodgers in Canada. And Carney said he'd close the loophole. Poilievre would have closed that loophole. Maybe even went after that $6.5 billion. That would have hurt Brookfield. And the CCUS. It's dead everywhere except for Canada. Mark Carney's going to lay it out. He's going to lay out this new CCUS that nobody wants anywhere. And it's not a new industry. It's a tax scheme. It's literally a tax scheme. So if you look at Brookfield's go to their website, read the investor deck. I read it. All of these pillars they talk about are all in trouble unless Mark Carney is the Prime Minister of Canada. And all the conflicts, there's a problem there. And you're going to get guys, I'm going to reach out to some guys like the Moose on the Loose, and then maybe they've already done a lot of this work. You know, Sam Cooper, all these guys that are digging in there. There's a Julia, there's a whole bunch of people. Because the government-funded media is not doing the work, they should be asking those questions, because those are the obvious questions to ask. And here we go. Build Canada Homes is now not just an office, it's going to become a new Crown Corporation. Why not? How many Crown Corporations have we tried to get rid of because they become just a, money-sucking pig? How many can you think of, Crown Corporations, that are doing really well? How's Canada Post doing? Canada Post doing. But Health Minister Gregor Robertson introduced a bill he called the next step in addressing Canada's housing crisis will be the creation of a new Crown Corporation. Why do we need a Crown Corporation? Why not just build some homes? Why not give the money to the builders? to build homes? Why not give the down payment to first-time home buyers? Just give them the down payment. There's a whole bunch of different ways instead of creating another bureaucracy. Robertson declined to specify how many housing starts would result. 9. That's how many. 9. He said, we're just at the beginning of the work that is needed. Build Canada homes or dispose of public lands provided via subsidized public housing and invest in ventures or enterprises, including through the acquisition, development of property is likely to benefit. Somebody wrote a really nice paragraph there. And who will be owning some of this land and that? That's the good question. And Anita and Ann's, like, doesn't her husband run the bridge there that goes out to PEI? Isn't he involved in that bridge? Melanie Jolie's brother runs in telecom. Uses a lot of temporary foreign workers. Chrystia Freeland is managing all that tens of billions of dollars that went to Ukraine. There's no target in terms of the amount of units that you want to build with Canada Homes to build, asked the reporter. Build Canada Homes is a crown corporation, will clearly be accountable to Canadians and government. Accountable? Accountable and Liberal Party? They just introduce a bill that they get to delete all their stuff after 15 days? That's the accountability we're talking about? That's the accountability? Urban housing starts last year totaled, ready for the number? Last year, urban housing starts last year totaled 241,000. Cabinet had said it would be 500,000. The Liberal government's big plan, billions of dollars added, 9. It's
a good line there. At this point, we don't have the labor force to manufacture at that scale.
I could have built 9 homes.
Immigration on.
I could have built. Me and a buddy could have built 9 homes by ourselves. I worked in construction in northern Alberta in high level. I worked construction. I think a crew of 4 of us built 24 townhomes in a winter. And they built 9 with billions of dollars. 9. F.
On the other hand, credit where it's due, and let's recognize excellence. Whoever it was that organized, who arranged the standing positions there, did such a good job. Look how symmetrical it is. Perfect. You can see everyone's face. That's a very good job.
We've nailed photo ops. Photo ops and MOUs and meetings to have meetings. We've got that nailed. I just don't know how we eat from that. But here we go.
Export that.
And Gregor just promised accountability. Listen, this is how we're going to get accountability. Listen in committee here on how accountability is going to happen. They're going to explain it to you. No, the next clip there.
The Globe and Mail, there was an article with a headline, the promise of government official accountability is vanishing along with their texts. From 2025 in CTV News, hypocrisy is next level. Canadian officials criticized for using disappearing messages on Signal. And then just to start off this year in January, from Blacklock's reporter, there was a memo that was sent out effective January 26 telling staff to delete in-house chat posts within 15 days. And the quote from the article was, keeping it longer increases risk and does not align with information management principles. Were you made aware of this decision prior to it being enforced by the government?
So we're not being informed when these policies are being issued. We are aware that government have retention policies, that they have also put in place a system that delete automatically some messages or team messages.
Are you concerned, though, with the fact that 15 days would be where they have this set? I mean, that's a pretty quick turnaround for a message to be deleted. And I know the Access to Information Act requires, 30 days for a response? Is that the timeline?
What I'm worried about, and actually I issued a letter this week to the institutions, is they have to be aware that when an access request comes in, all records have to be processed and treated and retrieved, including transitory documents and messages. So if they don't have a system that is put in place to stop the the deletion, or the automatic deletion, we may end up losing some of those documents.
In 2024.
That's good. We may end up losing some of those documents. I'm sure they're leaning on that delete key. Just like delete, delete, delete. FOI, sorry, deleted.
I mean, they've
Why would
already
they
known how
delete
to get
anything?
around this.
Why would they delete anything? Why would they delete anything? That should be no deletion. Absolutely zero deletion. Why would you delete it?
And they also
You're a
should be all the ways in which they get around it. They should crack down on that, like
These are
using personal email addresses and things.
This is public servants. You're public servants, all of you. The bureaucrats, the elected officials are all public servants. This is all information that belongs to the people of this nation. It doesn't belong to them. You're being paid by the taxpayer. And this should be outrage. This should be absolute outrage from the people. And the media, CBC, CTV did a story on it. CBC, shh. They did that story on pumping Carney's tires. That's what the CBC is good for, pumping tires. Pumping tires.
EV tires.
Pumping tires. Anyway, Michael Cooper here, beating him up on China here. Let's listen to Michael Cooper.
Is the most active perpetrator of foreign interference targeting our elections and democratic institutions.
Mr. Cooper, I think that's a question best posed to our director from CSIS.
Mr. Chair, through you, we've called out publicly in the past China, Russia, India, and others.
Thank you for that. And I would note that NSICOP in June 2024 identified the People's Republic of China as the biggest perpetrator of foreign interference, as did Madam Justice Hogue, as did CSIS as recently as July of 2025. So in the face of that, and given that we know, and this is to the Minister, that the Beijing-based communist regime has engaged in transnational repression, targeting members of Chinese diaspora communities in Canada. It is a regime that has surveilled, harassed, and intimidated members of these communities, and in doing so, it has shown no respect for Canada's sovereignty and has actively threatened the safety and security of Canadians. So, given all of that, how could the Prime Minister possibly have thought it was in Canada's interests to strike a deal to pursue cooperation with the Beijing dictatorship on matters of law enforcement? Minister?
The Prime Minister has outlined on a number of occasions, and most recently and more comprehensively in Davos. We are living in times that are unprecedented, one where Canada needs to broaden its relationships. We are the closest partner to the United States. However, we know that the situation and the trading relationship
Minister, is the PRC a rule of law state? Is it a rule of law state?
If I may just, if you will give me the time, I will respond to your
No,
question.
my time is very limited, so I'm asking you, is the PRC a rule of law state? Yes or no?
So, Mr. Cooper, I think to your previous question, the Prime Minister has clearly outlined the need for us to expand trade.
I'm asking you about
with countries
pursuing
in which
cooperation on law enforcement. So, is it a rule of law state? Yes or no?
Well, Mr. Cooper,
does it have an independent judiciary? Yes or no? These are straightforward questions. Yes or no?
Mr.
Minister?
Cooper, I'm not here as a foreign policy expert, nor
Minister,
an expert on China.
It is obvious
that
Beijing is not a rule of law state. They don't have an independent judiciary. Do they have civilian oversight of the police in Beijing?
Mr. Cooper, to your...
Do they respect human rights? Does the Beijing-based communist regime respect human rights? Yes or no?
Mr. Cooper, if you wish for me to answer the question,
then
I will give you a proper answer. As the Prime Minister has clearly outlined,
Okay,
both at Davos in many other speeches.
What?
There's a need for Canada to expand its trading partners. China is one of them. China
I didn't ask you a question about
and will
trading
be the
partners.
largest
I asked you
economy.
about cooperation on matters of law.
Batteries out there.
Cooper, if I
Sure. We just got a little technical thing. I'm sure you can hear us though. They could just
It's a shame that
continue.
it didn't freeze on Gary's face.
It continues to. They got their money's worth out of that course. I can tell you that, because he just wants to go back and use that same answer over and over again because he doesn't want to answer any of the questions. The answers are obvious, right? And we wouldn't use fool of the day for Gary. We would use incompetent of the day. Like he's absolutely incompetent. And is that the reason that he's picked for this position? Because he's so incompetent that they can hide in his incompetence there, because it's absolutely painful, and it's a mockery of the parliamentary system, an absolute mockery there. Now our tech guy has tangled himself up in the court.
Sausage Fox, what the hell?
Oh, you can't. Are we getting anywhere? Okay. Again,
I
our
would point
budget.
out, it's funny that the CSIS guy's reaction to being like pushed in front of the camera there, and Gary was like, "I think I'm going to give this to CSIS man," and he was like, he didn't like that, did he? Because he obviously didn't agree that it was his duty to respond to that one.
The Liberals make a mockery of the parliamentary system here in Canada. They make an absolute mockery. No accountability, no transparency, and won't even answer basic questions. It's just an absolute mockery. And just think if it was the other way around right now, if the Conservatives did that, how the media would be just like pit bulls on them. It's an absolute mockery with nothing being done by this government-funded media. Are you okay? You ready to go there?
What do they think the response is going to be from the average member of the public when they see a performance like that? What do they think that their view of democracy is going to be, and like the health of democracy, the health of institutions? They go around constantly, these people, talking about how democracy is imperiled and there's the rise of the nasty populists and all the rest of it. But they've done that. That's their responsibility. And it's because they behave like that.
Carney pledges billions to NATO commitments, would require over 124 billion increase in annual defense spending. Annually, 124 billion. 124. And he said it's our core responsibility. They've neglected our military for well over, a decade. A 5% commitment would require a $159 billion budget in 2035. I don't know where we're supposed to get the money. We keep sending all our money to Ukraine and different other places, like to gender equality rice in Vietnam. Somebody should go there and find out where the money actually gets spent, or does the money actually make it there?
Probably gets spent on brothels by Communist Party officials.
Rubio said that only 10% of that NGO money actually makes it anywhere near anything. You okay over there? Yeah. Okay. Again, our budget's pretty small here, so we're working on it. So, but you know what we are going to do? We're going to open a consulate in Greenland. A nation of 55,000 people. We're going to open a consulate there. Anybody want to send anybody there? Like if Canadians could vote on who would we send to this this consulate in Greenland? Should it be Jolie? Should it be Gary, Evan, or maybe the whole crew? Maybe the whole Liberal Party can buy one house there and they can all move in there and they can run this consulate and they can be forever in power in the Greenland consulate. Again, another virtue signaling waste of Canadian taxpayer dollars. We're going to open a consulate up in Greenland. For what purpose other than to virtue signal to the rest of the world, stick another stick in the Americans' eyes? What for? What for?
helps them win the election that they're planning on calling.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. This will probably have a budget of, well over $1 million a year or even more. That might even be the salary for somebody there. The heating bill there alone could be that much. 56,000 people. We're going to open a consulate there. Send them all. Send them all.
To what end? Like, what are we going to get for this? What are the Greenlanders going to give us? People to people ties. That's what it is, isn't it? Good old people to people ties.
Maybe we'll get a free trade agreement with. We'll send them snow, and they'll send us ice.
Swap polar bears.
Swap polar bears, yeah. Another one from Holly Doan and Blacklocks. McKnight irritates committee. MPs yesterday were driven to anger after Veterans Affairs. Jill McKnight refused to describe the impact of spending cuts on programs. Sure, cut it for veterans. This is the group that we're supposed to help here. That basically get paid minimum wage to, you ask them to to go out and kill strangers and actually put their life at risk, for, they were getting around $40,000 for a starting private, and I think they've upped that by 20%. So for $44,000 a year, you ask them to take a stranger's life or have their life taken by a stranger, while an average bureaucrat makes $136,000. Which job do you want?
Incentive structures.
What's that?
It's incentive structures, isn't it? Completely at the pleasure of the government. They decide how to construct these systems of incentive, and that's what they choose. That's what they choose to do. They incentivize to the max, trying to work as a sort of bureaucrat sending emails all day, and they disincentivize the real jobs, like protecting Canada.
The Department of Veteran Affairs had 3,783 employees last year, and a budget of $7.8 billion. Not too shabby, okay? Not too shabby. And then they were supposed to hire veterans, and they were the worst in all the other departments. Remember we did that story? I think it was a couple of weeks ago we did that story, that they were actually supposed to hire veterans, and they did the worst job of it in hiring veterans. I just can't remember the exact number now, but it was like the worst. I think the Fisheries Department hired more veterans than the Veterans Affairs Department.
See what this guy says, a former Air Force officer. He says, they don't get, talking about veterans, they don't get service. They get a half day, a cup of coffee and a cucumber sandwich, and are told to go to a website and find out on their own. Cucumber sandwich. Can't even do better than that.
Well, I can remember famously Justin Trudeau when he did town halls. I mean, kudos to him for actually doing a town hall. When the veteran asked for a wheelchair, and Justin Trudeau says, sadly, we don't have any money right now for you.
We're spending it money. On gender equal rights in Vietnam.
They had money for that. They had money. They had billions of dollars to send to Ukraine. They had, I can't remember, we listed off all, I can't remember all of them are so bloody foolish. All the stuff we sent in this climate agenda somewhere where likely none of it actually makes it anywhere. And $52 billion in wasted EV battery building factories. And then $250 million that Stephen Guilbeault still won't provide the paperwork on, that allegedly he funneled into his companies. We had money for that. We had $273,000 for Greg Fergus for 1 year in his expense account to travel to the Caribbean. We had money for that. But no money for a wheelchair for a person that served his country. No money for him.
Also money, bonuses for executives in the government who we're told have performed particularly well. Therefore, they get a bonus for their excellent performance.
We've asked the secretary of the military here, Stephen Fuhr, local MP, to come in and do an interview. We've even asked for quotes and that. Won't even answer the email. But he should answer the email. Maybe he's using the delete key too much. Maybe he's deleting all the requests. And the public servants are absolutely furious here. There you go. They say it's insulting to ask them to come to work 4 days a week. They say that's insulting. Maybe you should say that to your boss when he says, why aren't you at work today? I find that insulting. Public servants have been ordered to work
as well.
4 days a week. Insulting and disrespectful, insisting that it doesn't save them money or increase productivity. Try that out on your boss. See how it goes. Again, you know, the guy in the field, the military guy, he doesn't get to, they say, you're going to go do this operation over here. Just like, yeah, I'm not going there today. I'll do my work from remotely, please. Thank you.
I'll fire my mortar from home.
Evan Solomon's not done making a fool of himself. Let's go, Evan. He's the head of AI. Canada leads in AI. They must be hiding it, but let's listen into him.
Your government gave $240 million taxpayer dollars to Cohere as part of your government's so-called Canadian Sovereign Artificial Intelligence Compute Strategy to build an AI data center. We now know that Cohere has handed the same $240 million taxpayer dollars to a U.S.-based company, CoreWeave, to build and operate the data center. And so effectively, this is a $240 million handout, not to a Canadian company, but to a major U.S.-based tech company headquartered in New Jersey. Is it the case that in the lead-up to this $240 million handout, that your government knew that it was going straight into the pockets of a U.S. headquartered company?
Again, thanks for the question, and I just hope Canadians recognize that Cohere, we're very proud to have invested in Cohere. There are only 4 countries in the world that have a large language model companies. Those are the companies that are inventing the, you know, people know the open AIs. There's the Americans, there's the Chinese. France has one and Canada has one. That company in the enterprise space is Cohere. They're built in Canada.
Respectfully, I asked a very specific question, and that is at the time and in the lead up to handing out $240 million taxpayer dollars to Cohere, was your government aware that it was going to go straight into the pockets of a U.S.-based company? Yes or no?
And again, let me just say we are very proud to have invested. Our investment was in a Canadian company, Cohere, which has Canadian jobs, Canadian IP, Canadian innovation. They're headquartered here. They're built here, and they're absolutely an important company to support.
And perhaps you're not answering my question because the answer is an embarrassing one for the government, and the answer is yes. An official from ISED, for example, is quoted.
Again, it's just an insult to democracy here in Canada, an absolute insult. Like they will not answer questions.
We've said it so many times. It looks like he's having an argument with this guy from the Conservative Party, and that's kind of that's their thing. That's not what's happening there. He's speaking to you, speaking to us. Oh. We're the audience. We're the only audience. We're the reason this is happening. We're paying for it. It's being done on our behalf, and that is his.
That's what he thinks of you, the taxpayer. That's what he thinks of you. Every time they answer, it's not like they're outsmarting the guy on the other side. That's what they think of you, the taxpayer, that you are a fool. You're an absolute fool. When Gary plays that game, when Jolie plays that game, when Evan Solomon plays that game, they think you're a fool because you continue to dole out tax dollars. And then the CBC fear machine ramps it up. And then the people there, the older people, I know not all of you, some of you still have your common sense, just buy it hook, line, and sinker. And you watch Canada melt away. And you listen to our youth. Look at the youth. They're disenfranchised, disenchanted, and they want out. Look at Alberta wants out. That's the golden goose. Like, come on, man, wake up. These people make a mockery of democracy here in Canada. They treat you like you're a fool, like you're an absolute fool. These answers are for you. When a reporter asks a question, it's for you. It's not for them. When the opposition asks a question, it's not a game. It's not supposed to be a game. They're supposed to be accountable, and they're deleting emails now in 15 days. Why? They should never delete an email. They should never delete anything. These are public records that you, the taxpayer, own. We own everything, including pay their salary. They have no obligation to us at all. That shows clearly.
Yeah. I almost feel like it has to be, we have to introduce the court system into these committees where you can be done for perjury or contempt of court.
Held for contempt.
Yeah, because that is, why shouldn't we take it that seriously? You know, this is democracy. This is our democracy. This is our system of governance. What could be more serious than that? And yet we just get people like Evan Solomon here, just basically like flipping us all off. Yeah. It's not acceptable. We shouldn't just swallow that kind of thing.
There's people that say that what Ian and I do here is fake news, like lightning round comes on your fake news, and some people write in and say what we're doing is negative. Holding a government to account is negative, like to try to be better. Like we're trying to save Canada. Canada's falling apart. Like we're actually trying to save it by making people accountable, because we need an accountable government, because they wouldn't have to hide if they were doing a good job. They literally spent $262,000, $609,000 on advice on how to be strategic in committee to avoid answering questions. They took your tax dollars and they paid a consultant over $250,000 on how to evade answering to you.
Our good friend Toad Ferguson there, which is reference to a Norm Macdonald character, I believe, isn't it? Quite a funny moment in Big Norm's life. But he's saying the root of all problems is the British Empire. Don't know if I agree with that, but certainly I would say lots of the causes of Canada's problems go back to the British Empire, for sure. You can't free them of blame. The way that Canada was just an afterthought, or constantly compromise with Lower Canada, give them everything that they wanted. We're still living in that world, aren't we? I mean,
we
comes
have
down to the British Empire.
We have a message from Mark Carney here. I'm going to play it.
In a more divided and uncertain world, your success will unite Canadians from coast to coast to coast and remind us that we are part of something bigger. In a more divided and uncertain world, your success will unite Canadians from coast to coast to coast and remind us that we are part of something bigger.
That's good. Oh, there you go. A message of fear. Why? Even in sport, a message of fear. Why? Why?
Because it's to their benefit. The pollsters have revealed it's to their benefit.
Look at this. Check this jersey out here. I'll see if I can show you the back here. This is, you can see that?
Yeah.
That?
I think so. I mean, I think you need to step to your right a bit. To your right a little bit. Yeah, there you go. Now we can see it.
The greatest hockey player ever, other than Mario Lemieux and Wayne Gretzky, Bobby Orr. We need a message of hope, not of like driving fear. Everything is about fear with this Liberal government and the CBC. Bobby. I watched Bobby when I was a little one. Bobby Orr was my favorite player when I was growing up. And I was lucky to grow up when I was going to college, I was in Edmonton during the heyday of the Edmonton Oilers. I got to watch some really great hockey. And then followed Mario Lemieux. It was nice when we got to think about just hockey and stuff like that and, sports. And now we got to figure out how we can get food on the table. Come on, man. Come on. Let's have a message of hope. That's enough of this fear factor stuff. Don't let them drive fear into you. Canada is a great nation. It just needs to get rid of the scourge that's infiltrated it. The scourge that is definitely, and that scourge, the shield is the media. That's the scourge. The media in Canada is the scourge. Bring back accountability. These people wouldn't last. Gary on the Sangre wouldn't last with a real free and independent media. How long do you think they would last with me and Ian on them? Gary Endesangre, Melanie Jolie, Evan Solomon. Like, he should be barbecued for that crap that he did today. Absolute garbage.
But, you know, as Mark Carney shows here with this little video that we just watched, they've claimed the flag, haven't they? They've claimed the leaf as their own, to the extent that they would almost look at you wearing that jersey and they'd be saying, like, that's our thing. Like, that's a liberal thing. that is the environment that they've created. And it's obviously, it's gruesome to behold, isn't it? But we've seen the same thing throughout history. This is just the latest manifestation of that kind of naughtiness.
Not too bad in a change, eh? Halaboo, as they would say. Halaboo. he shoots, he scores.
Before.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to do it quick, right? I knew I only had 11 seconds. But I think Wayne Gretzky
kept the screen on. Sausage Fox sold you out.
I think Wayne Gretzky scored 3 goals in 11 seconds. I'm not sure if I got that number right. Laboo, yeah, Laboo. Montreal Canadiens. Anyway, here's more disappointing news from Health Canada.
Ms. Weber, does Health Canada set an age requirement on who can access all federally approved supervised drug consumption sites? Yes or no?
Health Canada does the approval for the exemption request, which is an exemption from the CDSA, or the Drugs and Substances Act. And that allows for an individual to go into the site with possession of a substance and use it in a supervised location.
Is there an age
Health
requirement on that?
Canada does not set an age limit. Some of the sites may have policies and procedures.
Federal regulations. Like there's
Health Canada provides the exemption for to be allowed to have possession of the product in the site, but we do not determine an age. Health Canada does not have an age limit in legislation.
Thank you.
Hey. There you go. So if a 13-year-old wandered in, a 13-year-old wandered in, they'd say, hey, have at her.
Hit me up. I mean, I don't know what to say, really. I think I am beyond sickened there, to quote this MP. I think I can agree with that. But the science apparently tells us that this is what you should do. You should inject children with hard drugs.
You know, the question should be, what would Bobby do? I don't think Bobby would allow the 13-year-old in to shoot up. Not the Bobby.
What would anybody do with who's even slightly morally competent? What would anyone do? Yeah, that's the real question, isn't it?
Dust 921 says me and Mark should go into a hockey fight. I'm game. I mean, I would even just do an interview. Like put Mark Carney in the middle here and do an interview with Ian and I for an hour, and we'll shut up on him for at least 3 months. Just he has to answer the questions, not do that nonsense of talking points. It's absolutely crazy. That is. Cancel culture is over everywhere in the world, really, except for Canada. The WEF has a stranglehold on Canada still, and they're going to hang on to it. The truck driver, the responsible for the Humboldt Broncos, the killing of 16 people, 16 young men, has lost his bid to stay in Canada. Why was it even a bid in the first place? That's my question. He's hung on here with his bid. Like, and will he be forced to leave, even if he loses his bid? Because we know that the immigration department doesn't even know where most people are. Why was this even a bid?
And how much money has already been spent on this bloke,
16.
And trials and
16
everything.
young men. I remind you to go look at what happened there. 16 young men lost their lives.
But it's just, just to put it bluntly, it's just yet another bad actor just taking the piss out of the legal system, really, isn't it? That's what this is. It's just, this is like, we have all of these checks and appeals and everything like that, don't we, in the legal system to try and be as fair as possible. And then some people just exploit it, really. This is a fella that nobody bloody wants in this country. Nobody wants anything like that in this country. It's like, I think he's a bad hombre. He's revealed that. Nobody wants him. And yet, you know, the legal system turns on.
Well, I mean, they're protecting people like this in the United States and in Canada for all these illegal truck drivers. There was a story done out of Ontario where they were handing out licenses. They're basically buying licenses. These people can't read road signs, all that stuff, can't speak the language. And they're driving a 50-ton death machine down the highway. And this is what this 50-ton death machine did. It killed 16 young men, blowing through a stop sign. A British man who lived in BC convicted of conspiracy to sell drugs killed U.S. sailors. And he's been convicted of that conspiracy to sell drugs that led to the death of 2 U.S. Navy sailors. And a Mountie said Paul Anthony Nichols, 47, had overstayed his visa in Canada, was removed from the country following his arrest in 2018. A jury in the U.S. state of Georgia has now convicted him of conspiracy to import and a conspiracy to distribute controlled substances resulting in deaths. He's been sentenced to 20 years in prison.
I mean, another naughty immigrant, really, isn't it? This one from His Majesty's British Isles. But I mean, the bigger story, if there is one to talk about, is again like BC being used as a kind of, you know, a part of that trade, the drug trade, and fentanyl, I believe it was in this case, and how it's used as a kind of jumping off point into the United States by a lot of these repulsive human beings.
Flip-flop forward. Again, rewarded for failure. We should add in flip-flop forward failure. And here's a reporter actually asking about his failures, but flip-flop forward flips it around. Let's go, Flippy.
With all the delays that have taken place to get to this point, all the issues that have happened, the impact on communities, we're $1 billion over budget at this point. I think I speak on behalf of a lot of Torontonians wondering, why are we even here celebrating, unveiling a plaque, having a photo op after everything that has taken place?
Well, Mark, everything that you said is factual. I don't look at the glass as half empty. I know you're very negative when it comes to this, but let me tell you, we're building the largest transit system in North America. There's going to be bumps in the road, and this is going to be around for close to a century, probably longer than a century. And then, as you heard, we're building the Scarborough extension. First time ever, Scarborough's actually going to be getting a subway, and we're going to extend it. And I know Michael Thompson's as happy as anything because we're going to bring subways all through Scarborough. We're ahead of schedule on Eglinton West. We're doing one of the most complicated.
That's good enough. I don't need to hear all that nonsense. Well, the first thing to do is what we stopped doing. Stop going out to the photo ops. Stop giving them what they want. Stop going there. Do you know what I mean? Like going there and just letting them do the photo op. Like, because you're just going there to promote them. And then just, you know, he might as well said that he didn't take credit for the sun coming up in the morning. Stop being negative. Wasting taxpayer dollars because of incompetence and a whole bunch of other things flip-flop forward. Why don't you just answer the question without going like a 10-minute speech on taking credit for, like I said, the sun coming up and the moon coming up on the other side of it. Just like Doug Ford is a problem in Canada. Like he just flips and flops, and the reporters don't hold him to account either.
He is quite good at what he does, though, isn't he? In terms of his folksy character that he's created.
Well, somebody's got to be better than him then. Do you know what I mean? They got to be able to like pivot when he's like, you know what I mean? Instead of just like, hey, that's enough, flip-flop forward. Why don't we just answer the question, why are there cost overruns? Why are there cost overruns? Who's to blame? Who's been fired? Because the taxpayer is paying for this. The taxpayer pays for this. Every time you guys make mistakes, the taxpayer has less food on the table. Who's responsible for that? You take food off the table, Flippy. And just as a reminder, we have a high unemployment for our youth in Canada. They're disenfranchised while we continue to hire temporary foreign workers. People, record lineups at food banks, just a reminder, we'll do these reminders. People lining up food banks, says maybe some of them will give back their bonuses. while the Prime Minister handed out bonuses, over $146 million in bonuses. The next one, $146 million in bonus at an average of $28,000 each. For what would they qualify for bonuses for when they already make in the 200,000 plus? I mean, that's light. Some of them are making like in $500,000 range, and they still got bonuses. How are you doing? You're paying for all of that. And then we're not going to play this clip. I didn't put it in there. But you remember we did this yesterday. York Police Department had, what was it, 9 police officers arrested for fraud? Or sorry, for, you know, like criminal activity?
Giving criminals the addresses from the police system. Pretty well, that's the allegation.
I'm sure we played this clip probably, what, 8 months ago, where they were all on stage dancing. I'm not going to play the clip, but they're all the brasses up there. They had time for dancing, performative stuff again, virtue signaling, performative dancing, instead of looking within. Like Carney said, there's some advice there. Look within, police chief. Look within yourself. You should be fired. You should resign. You again, like, will he resign? Like, where's the accountability? Where is that general in charge of our military still there? The one that cried and talked about all the racism in their military? Resign. You're responsible.
Still the king of that. The queen of the military.
And then still working there, still got a job, Dr. Mona Niemer, for $393,000 and a staff of 21. Still working. Can't spot a UFO because there's too many drones. So we probably need a regulation to get rid of the drones. And just as a reminder, still no response from CBC on the trampling of Canadian rights and freedoms when they imposed the Emergencies Act. Nothing. Go watch that interview. Nothing yet. No response from Mark Carney. Fax files closed for 15 years. Where's the uproar from people? These are things that are outstanding issues. Nothing. But we're going to just finish off with one last story. Keir Starmer. This is a Labour MP. I think Keir Starmer's kaput. But let's listen here.
Look, this was our manifesto, right? One man, one word, change. Yeah. That's what we promised. That was the whole of what we as the Labour Party promised this country, change. This looks more like the same.
Should he step down?
I think that he needs to think very hard about what is in the country's best interest and what is in his party's best interest.
It's a veiled yes. You're saying that you don't want to say it, but you're saying it with your eyes.
Keir Starmer, as a project, came about from somebody who had been the protege of Mandelson and who is now the Chief of Staff in 10 Downing Street. There's connectivity, and to use your historical analogy, the guy at the top is not the only thing here. There are barons, and when the barons begin to feel that they're under pressure, it's a very dangerous time for the Prime Minister. And there is so much that is dependent upon what Mandelson, through the Chief of Staff, then has initiated, and the people who are now in positions as ministers that have been dependent upon that whole process.
Okay.
That means this is not just one man at the top. But you're talking about an aristocracy within the party.
You've named
Barry Gardiner. I used to work for a paper that covered him. I think I interviewed him once. But he is on the left of the Labour Party. Keir Starmer is considered to be more on the right, and he's just expressing what the left of the Labour Party have always thought. They hate Keir Starmer. They've always wanted rid of him. So I would take his utterances with a pinch of salt, but generally speaking, yeah, I think the average rank and file in the Labour Party is finished with Keir Starmer and has been for ages. And one of the main reasons is because he's, there's never been a more unpopular prime minister. He's like a record-breaking prime minister for unpopularity, and they want to keep their jobs, obviously, so they want to get rid of him so that they can bring in somebody more popular.
So yeah, Polymarkets right now is saying out by February 28th. There's pretty good odds there against him leaving. It's at 7%. So if you put $10 down, you're going to get, or if you put $20 down, that gets you $285 if you're right. June 30th, the bet is almost 50-50. And December 31st, 2026, 65% odds that he's out. I personally think he's probably going a lot sooner. I think these things just escalate.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of just getting like worse and worse and worse, and more's going to come out, more documents are going to be released, and it almost certainly won't be good for Keir Starmer. And I think that's when that will be the straw that breaks the camel's back, and he'll be gone, and then you'll get, God knows who you'll get, but I mean, somebody as unimpressive as Keir Starmer, possibly even less impressive. So get ready for that.
Perhaps Trump played this like 4D chess again when people are demanding that it come out. If he would have just threw it out there and it implicated a bunch of Democrats, they would have said that it was, like rigged, that, he was like playing a game. But, like he made them demand it come out. So they made him demand it be released. And I think some of the stuff that's coming out is not going to be good for the likes of Bill Gates. And we're starting to see it, some political figures.
Bill Gates has survived this far, hasn't he? I mean, there's a few pictures that make him look pretty bad and records of him being around the place, but
his wife's
there's no smoking gun yet, is there, for Big Billy?
His wife's condemnation there the other day did not help matters. I mean, he's got stink on him no matter how you slice it right now. No matter how you slice it. Prince Andrew survived for quite a while before they stripped him too, right? That went on for a while before, it just takes a while for the machine, because the machine is protects itself first. And but the message for today is you got to stop allowing the CBCs, CTVs, and the liberals driving fear into your hearts. I mean, if there is a true battle, you don't want to go into it with fear anyway, do you? But there isn't. Like, the Americans aren't coming to invade us. I'd bet everything I had that the Americans aren't coming to invade us. But they're going to break Canada until some Canadians might be begging for it. Do you know what I mean? If you keep going down this path where you have record food bank lineups, young people with no hope, isn't it odd that usually it's the young people that are left-leaning, but we have the youth population have lost hope, and the boomers, for some strange reason, have lost their minds. It's eating this fear like it was pablum. Where's your courage? Where's the demand for accountability?
Really, that's what it feels like.
Where's the demand for accountability? Like, that's the weirdest thing ever. Like, where's the demand for it? We should be angry about the waste, fraud, abuse, incompetence. We should be mad about that. That's what the show continues to bring you. We're going to try and get our website up this weekend, and then on there we're going to have merchandise, ways that you can contribute, ways you can follow us, because we do have a TikTok channel, we do have an X channel. I do write lots on LinkedIn as well. And, like the feedback we get, I believe this show could be, could grow. I mean, again, when we started this show, Ian and I, we had 25, 30 people watching us, making fun of it. Now we're getting a decent audience at 1.7 million for the last 30 days views. So let me take your feedback. And we especially like the people that show up every day. Not that we don't like the other people, but like Laura, she's here all the time, right? So there's a ton of people. Global Traveler, the guy from the Crime Family, John Gotti. I can't remember everybody.
But the curry donuts, that can't possibly be a real thing.
What's that?
Somebody's talking about he's saying curry donuts. That can't be real, surely.
You want to send a message to Tim Hortons? Just stop going there. Stop going to Tim Hortons. Stop going to A&W till they hire Canadian kids. And if they got to pay them more, because the rest of us shouldn't be subsidizing Tim Hortons and A&W so they can make more profits, because they don't want to pay a decent wage to make a bloody cheeseburger or a a shitty cup of coffee. That's how you do it. You have the power. You have the power for everything. Your vote matters. And don't make it out of fear. And more Canadian greats like Bobby Orr. I'm sure everybody has a great hockey player that they thought was, one of the best hockey. Like one of them in Canada. I haven't won a Stanley Cup forever. I have not won because most of our talent. Well, I mean, Canadians have won a Stanley Cup. They won it in another country. But there you go. That's our show.
Go Sens.
Go Sens? Go somebody.
That's my closing comment.
Lanny McDonald, yeah, that mustache, that was epic. I was an Oilers fan for a long time, so I'm not a big fan of Lanny and Jim Poplinski and what's that little? He's a little pit bull right now. Theoren Fleury. He's not a fan of the Liberals. Theoren Fleury. I still remember the quote in the newspaper there where it said he was facing off with Gretzky, and he said to Gretzky, "What's it like to be the most hated player in the NHL?" And Gretzky's response back was, "What's it like to be the most hated player on your own team?" I might have got that wrong, Theo, but hey. He was a pit bull. I remember him sliding down the ice there on his back there. Wild stuff. But that's it. We'll see you. Do I have anything else today? I had a couple good interviews this week. There were 3 MLAs in, and I had the CEO, president of a junior mining company. You can go watch those as well. Plus, we're clipping this all up. So you can watch small stuff, send it out, share it wherever you can. Share it wherever you can. Please and thank you. And it's great getting to know everybody here. Brett here. Thank you, Brett, and Joe, and everybody else. Cheers, and we'll see you Monday morning at 9 a.m.